So just briefly, a little bit about WSP. You probably know who we are. Approximately 55,000 people globally, 6,500 people Australia and New Zealand. We've recently acquired Golder, who you may know of, and we've got technology partners, in particularly with Telstra and AWS. We work with them quite closely on a number of interesting projects. So today I wanted to sort of tick through a little bit about the past. We don't want to dwell on COVID and all the fun that we've had, but I think it's an interesting pointer to where we are now. And we can talk a little bit about the now and the present. We'll talk a bit about the future. And then just discuss digital twins a little bit, which seem to be a hot topic. Everyone's talking about digital twins. What are they? What are they to me? What are they to you? I think everyone's got mixed sort of expectations about digital twins and where they fit into their various worlds. And on the back end of that, I might just discuss briefly what WSP is doing in this space and what we're changing in our business setup to try to account for what we see as the future of delivering work, which is changing rapidly. So let's discuss the past a little bit. We could go all the way back to 2008-ish, when Revit became functional in the building space. Really, it was a bit of a journey from there through to sort of 2016, where I think digitisation was really underway in the market. In 2017, we really had a bit of a shift to cloud services. Certainly, BIM 360, as we know it, was sort of released around about there, depending on which version of it, maybe a little bit earlier. And that had a really big impact on where we got to today, I guess. We had the NBN. Now, I don't think this has been really focused on much, certainly not in my areas of discussion, but we are so lucky that we sort of got the NBN rolling a couple of years, or a year really, before COVID hit. I would hazard a guess that a large sector of this industry would have been in dire straits over the last couple of years if we hadn't have gotten really good internet infrastructure underway. And, you know, it worked. It worked really well. The switch from working in the office every day to bringing an entire team to working from home was quick, it was unexpected, but it was successful. Now, that journey is really important, I think, to understand that we've come a long, long way in just a couple of years, and if COVID had have happened a couple of years earlier, we would have been in dire straits, I think. And then obviously with COVID coming along, a lot of remote working, everyone went to cloud hosting, and we accelerated our digitisation journey, I guess. And that's been talked about a little bit in the panel beforehand as well, that, you know, teams came along very rapidly. Everyone jumped on board. Everyone who wasn't already using BIM 360 or other equivalents jumped on board because they didn't have an option. And it has really changed our attitudes to working from home, obviously. I tend to agree that we won't go back to the office full time. I don't know where we'll end up. It might be 2 days a week, might be 3. It'll vary based on role, it'll vary based on business. I was having a chat with an old colleague here yesterday and he said, well, we're pretty much all back at the office. I said, well, wow, we're not there yet. We're working towards it, but we're certainly nowhere near capacity, but we're functional. We're delivering projects left, right and centre, and we feel like we're doing them fairly efficiently as well. So it's not as big an issue as some people might believe. However, the team formation and forming those work relationships, I think that will suffer in the long run unless we start to get back into the office. I did miss a little bit of an introduction about myself, so I might just do that now. Simon Gibbs. I've been in the industry for 16 odd years, pretty much all of that with WSP. Prior to that, Lincoln Scott. So I came out of the building services sector, worked into the broader property market, and have more recently in the last few years been doing a lot more work in the infrastructure realm and shifting around doing similar kinds of work in different sectors. But I think that's given me a good insight into where the building industry is versus, or where the property sector is, I should say, versus transport and vice versa. So where are we now? We've got a subdued commercial and residential market. Certainly the residential sector has suffered a little bit more. The commercial's not great either. However, we're getting huge amounts of infrastructure spend. We all know that. Whether it's defence, whether it's transport, the health sector, pretty much everything, education. There's really a lot of money ploughing into the market, and that has buoyed that, I guess, subdued other sectors of the market. But that's going to have some interesting effects in the long run, I suspect, which I'll touch on in a little bit. We've certainly got maturing client requirements. It's not too many years ago where we looked at a tender and it said, give us BIM. We said, great, what would you like? and that conversation started. Nowadays, the majority of our major clients know what they want. They don't necessarily know the most efficient way to get there, but they know kind of what they want. There's been a big focus shift. We're looking towards the future. There's a lot of discussion around sustainability. Obviously, embodied carbon, etc. Life cycle carbon analysis is becoming a very big factor. We're not going to get away from that. That's going to continue to grow as we move forward. Everyone now obviously has very much a digital focus. Digital twins are becoming a thing, whereas not too long ago they were just a discussion piece. There's some good standards in the market. BIM Oz have done an amazing job getting some basic standards up and running and actually giving some consistency to the market. And I know, speaking to some of my international colleagues, that when BIM Oz was first released and we sort of showed them what they were doing, they said, wow, no one in our market is doing that. And they've caught up a little bit since then, but at the time, I think it was fairly groundbreaking and really helped the Australian market. I would say I don't think there's enough uptake, but that's another discussion, I think. So we seem to finally be at the I in BIM. People are asking for information. Sorry, I'm just going to grab a glass of water. Information is a focus of delivery. People have expected metadata sets. Not just, I want everything, which was certainly the case for a long time. It's now focused to what I want, which is fantastic. However, we've sort of ended up here. Data overload, standards overload, solution overload. We need new skills. We need to grow our skills in the marketplace. And this has all come on top of a very stretched resource market. According to a couple of stats I found, in the next year or two, there'll be approximately 100,000 skilled employees short for the infrastructure market alone. And that's sort of, while many of you may not be from the infrastructure side of delivery, that's having a big impact. Mainly because it's become a bit of a brain drain on the other sectors. And I've certainly seen it in our business that we are losing or migrating many of our skilled people into delivering this major infrastructure, which is great. They're they're needed in that sector. I just wonder what will happen in the buildings and property market when that bounces back a little bit in the next couple of years. Where are we going to find the people? And this is really a problem right now. We have not managed to place many roles over the last 2 years because we just haven't had the people and we can't find them in the market. So I think that's sort of where we're at now. So if I get my magic 8 ball out, what's the future? So we'll see increasing technology uptake. But I think, as was mentioned a little bit earlier, the technology is there, but are we using it effectively? Are we using it to its capacity? And I'd certainly say that that's not the case in a lot of scenarios. We're going to end up with more specialised skill sets. I mean, we're using a lot more data analytics now. We're using a lot more programmers, DevOps, whatever it may be. Very specific skills. There's not just I've got a designer or I've got an engineer. Computational design doesn't require just an engineer, but an engineer who understands how to read code, how to write code, or how to communicate a process. That's a really interesting discussion to have with an engineer. How did you get to this calculation? Many times it's because I've always done it this way and I've got this spreadsheet that tells me how it's done. To get back to the fundamentals and actually put it into code can be challenging. Machine learning. We are starting to use machine learning in a lot of cases, certainly, again, in the infrastructure, mostly in the rail space, WSP at the moment, but that will become a bigger player. But machine learning, again, it's code, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't function unless we've got those standardised data sets underlying them. If we don't have that standardisation, the computers just cannot interpret. They're not machine readable. It's not machine readable data and it's not consistent data. Whether it's cross-project, whether it's cross-industry, there's no point building a complex and expensive AI, ML tool if it can't be used on every project you've got. So we're in this sort of space where all of this is coming, but it's got to coalesce around consistent standards. There's been a lot of discussion over the last few years about commoditised design. Well, what does that mean? It's a bit of a race to the bottom on price. At the end of the day, if we have a machine, the magic button, hit the red button, design my building. That will probably happen one day. It won't happen in a hurry, but we'll get there incrementally. But at the end of the day, that means that the cost of designing a building will go down. And they'll be going down and down and down as we move forward. So how do we deal with that as a market? How do we support our staff? How do we change our approach to business? That's going to be really interesting to see. And I think it's already starting to happen, but probably in 5 or 10 years it will be a little bit more obvious. Connected databases. I saw a presentation by Simon Vo. I'm not sure whether people know Simon Vo. He used to head the digital engineering space for Transport for New South Wales. He's working on some new stuff, and his presentation really revolved around, we need to get away from files. We talk about common data environments and file-based transactions. But a lot of the information that we want might be metadata, it might be other databases. Are we going to end up with connected databases as opposed to common data environments? I suspect we will. That's going to be a huge technology challenge though. I mean, how do you manage incremental, small delta changes in data across connected databases through people's firewalls, across various different business groups? It will be a challenge, but I think we'll get there. And that will mean we can tweak design and have a more granular look at design and change things a little bit more rapidly, rather than having to shift an entire model or a file set across from one environment to another. So I think that'll be really interesting, and hopefully will come true. The future. We have approximately 1.2 million AEC industry staff in Australia, according to some stats I found in the Infrastructure Workforce and Skills Supply document there by Infrastructure Australia. How many skilled digital practitioners are there in Australia? I wouldn't have a clue. I would welcome some guesses. Well, this is it. Is it? Congratulations, you're one of the few. Look, I would say from my experience that it's, again, comes back to what do I mean by skilled digital practitioners, but there's obviously variation, but I would say maybe 10% of our industry is really skilled in the digital world, understands the technology it uses it to its maximum. And this definition as well, the T-shaped skills profile. I pulled this again from this report, but I thought it was quite appropriate. So I was talking about a skills profile, one of deep specialist knowledge and skills in a particular area, which is the vertical stroke of the T, along with generalist and technical skills, a collaboration mindset, and people skills, which is the horizontal stroke. It's not that easy to find these people. It's really not, because you do have to have that personal connection to people, be able to communicate, and you need to have the really deep technical understanding. There's a lot of people in the industry who are great at talking, but not necessarily understanding the technology. There's a lot of people who are really good at the technology, but you put them in front of a client, or you try to have a discussion with a wider team and they shut down a little bit. So it's not just a matter of training. It's not that simple. So Luke Belfield brought this image up earlier, so I apologise being the last speaker. I think I get to repeat everyone else's points. But this is just a bit of an indication of that uplift in infrastructure projects again. Just to refocus on that lack of skills. How do we fill that gap? There's a huge spend, and we're sort of coming into the front end of that real uplift right now. And as I said, we're already feeling it. Where are we going to be in 2 years' time? So in my mind, this is the biggest challenge of the industry. Capability, capacity. Unless we can fill those holes, we're in deep strife. So how do we meet these challenges? We have to have consistency of approach, so tools and process. Again, probably repeating some of the discussions in the panel there. Integration between platforms. It's still not an efficient process. If you're working in the infrastructure realm and you're working with Bentley products, Revit products, 12D, Civil 3D, trying to get them all to talk together, it's a little bit painful. It can be done, but it's still not quite there. Alignment of standards. People are coalescing around Uniclass, but it's not used consistently. BIM EPOS, obviously, I think can play a really strong role as we move forward. But the big problem, and again, I'm just going to be repeating some of the stuff that's been said before, sector and state. Working on projects in Victoria, in Queensland, in New South Wales, in South Australia, in WA, everyone's got a different approach. Everyone's got the same high-level structure, right? But when you get down to the fundamentals on what data is going to be delivered, what tools are being used, the naming conventions and the valve, they're all different. And what that means is that everyone develops their own tools for different sectors. You know, we've got data tools for New South Wales, for Victoria, for Queensland, and it's a lot of duplication, a lot. And that's just our company. You look at the market, every consultant, every contractor is developing their own tools, aren't they? Because the market can't develop tools if there's no consistency. It's just not possible. And obviously that key focus there around build capability. We have to get consistent training up and running. We have to get consistent skills out in the market. And that's not happening at the moment. Often we get on a project, we've got a BIM manager, we've got a DE manager, we've got a BIM coordinator, whoever it might be, but they've all got completely different skill sets. It's not until you've worked on a project with them for 6 months that you actually understand where they're at and what value they can add, because there's no benchmark. So for the last few years, we've been focusing on project duplication. How do we stop duplication for every single project? And I think we're getting better at that. Yeah, we're reusing content, we're reusing a lot of different pieces of the puzzle. But again, market and business duplication is still a big problem. We need to pare back the hard-coded bespoke solutions and move towards open BIM and open source. And I'm a big champion of open BIM. It's not everything that could be yet, but the concepts are right. We need to have an open approach to these things, and we need to start collaborating a little bit more as an industry, but probably that last piece there is a big problem, right? Where's my competitive advantage? If I start collaborating with our competitors, how can I say that I can deliver it better? That's not a challenge I've got an answer to be honest, but it's certainly a big problem. And BIMEP Oz, ABAB and Co really need to help come to the table and meet those challenges. So let's talk about digital twins. They've been mentioned in many presentations. Everyone's got a different interpretation on what they are. It's another expansion on the journey to digital supremacy as far as I'm concerned. It's the new catchphrase in the market. It's the new digital engineering, which is the new BIM, which is the new CAD, which is the new something else. Are they the same? No, but it's an expansion on that idea set. It's an expansion on efficient use of data, on a collaborative approach. I can't wait for blockchain in the AEC market, the new digital twin. That'll be really exciting. That's a joke. There is a lot of discussion out there about blockchain though, and that may form part of how we deliver projects in the future. We've got clients coming to us and saying, how can we use blockchain? Often the answer at the moment is, it's not a good idea yet, because there's better ways to do it. But again, blockchain is getting a little bit of momentum and a little bit of market presence and claims to solve many problems, and it can, but there may be better solutions. That might just be a simple distributed connected database. How do you define your digital twin? Is it a large-scale or a site-based digital twin? What do your time-based data interactions look like? Is it 3D only? Is it 2D? Are you using your GIS platform? What stage of the project are you concentrating on? Planning, design, delivery, operations? I think that a lot of people are now looking at a federated model and saying, I've got a digital twin. I would probably try to challenge that. What is a digital twin though? Look, it does vary, but it needs to have some time series data in my mind. And generally they're a combination of GIS, 2D based spatial data, as well as the 3D BIM based data as well. So we've sort of been working on a bit of a digital twin maturity model that we're bringing to market, just as a discussion piece. Apologies, the image is probably a little bit small for a presentation. I should have pulled that out. But level 0, level 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Starting at a reference twin, moving up to a planning and delivery twin, operational twin, and simulation and optimisation twin. I don't think too many people are at the simulation and optimisation twin. Not in the form that we hope to see, but we're starting to get there. Certainly there's a lot of operational twins around in terms of BMS connected models. If you look at the commercial off-the-shelf solutions, there's a number out there. Autodesk Tandem's coming along, but you've got Ecodomus, you've got Willow, and a few other products out there as well. Again, we've struggled to communicate some of this with some of our clients, so we're developing a little bit of a digital twin guide, a journey, if you like, so that people can flick through what sort of digital twin they want. So you can see on the left-hand panel is the mock-up, but it's due for release in a few weeks, hopefully, although we said that about a month ago. Is a small scale, when I say small scale, that's buildings-based. Is it a large scale? That's linear infrastructure, state-based digital twins, that kind of thing. What phase of the delivery, or planning, design, delivery, operations, etc. And what sort of data maturity do you have? Is it static data? Is it dynamic data? Or is it predictive data? So, and then that will just revolve into some examples of things that we've done in the past. So hopefully we'll see that out there in the near future. That can help challenge people's ideas about what a digital twin is and where it fits into their expectations. I had a bit of a technical fail this morning, but the AV guys hopefully have got my back here. They're going to play this video, fantastic. So this is a proof of concept that we did using Azure Digital Twin Services, linking through to Unreal. So our Swedish colleagues put this together. This is part of their office. But I think it's an exciting pointer on where we might get to. This is all possible in the here and now. You can see it's looking at various rooms and temperature sensors, so it's got live feedback. It can do sort of analysis on temperature, so you can see the temperature mapping colour graded there. Using the power of Unreal Engine, you can get really good graphical response, which a lot of the other tools don't do particularly well. I like this. This is kind of a computational fluid dynamics simulation of the air conditioner. Again, we spent a lot of work doing this. It's not something you do every day at the moment, but if we can get that to work in our future buildings, that could add some real value, I think, and looking really cool too. Again, because it's such a strong visual tool, there's a lot that you can do with Unreal Engine. Thank you, AV guys. Might just jump to the next slide. Perfect. How are we doing for time? Getting there. Okay, I thought I'd touch on a couple of projects that we've been working on. Land IQ in New South Wales, working for the Department of Planning, Industry and Environment. Partnered with Giraffe, who are a bit of a startup but are making some waves. They're a really good, smart planning digital twin tool, if you like. So we've put together a tool that does some land use analysis. I can't show you the live working version of this at this stage, but perhaps in a future presentation. Basically, it takes all of the land use stats and tries to consolidate them into one platform that's accessible to all New South Wales government agencies. Now, if you talk digital twins at the state level, this is really what it's about. It's about sharing information interagency, because they don't have very good ways to do that. Every agency, every LGA uses their own GIS system. They might have their own standards. They've got their own hosting. Then you've got all of your ownership, privacy issues, etc. on top of that. They just don't talk to each other. So we've developed this tool to provide the New South Wales government a really smart, interactive way to gather and analyse property data or land use data. And it integrates fully with the New South Wales digital twin as well. New South Wales Spatial Digital Twin, again, this is stage 2, working for the Department of Customer Services. I know, again, it's a pretty dry image, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Developing an automated infrastructure asset data pipeline into their systems, self-service delivery, and a simple, automated, rapid and repeatable process for imagery and elevation data, to the point where, you know, the aerial drones or mostly flights in this case are capturing the data and streaming it sort of live straight back into the system as they go using 4G. So really starting to leverage large-scale data and bring it into those state-based digital twins, which not a lot of it's happening yet. It's starting to build momentum, but once that information is available at a state level, then you know, the world's our oyster. So we spoke a little bit about local versus larger scale digital twins. This is the sort of technology ecosystem that we're working with on some of those projects. This is really just to highlight that it's not grab a product, throw it out there, shove some data into it. It doesn't work that way. It's a lot of systems integration, working with APIs, working with the GIS guys, doing data manipulation, cleanup. This is sort of the breakdown that we've used a little bit on a few of the recent ones. So using a group called Coordinates out of New Zealand. So they're really a smart data repository using sort of Git-based data functions, providing all of the access controls to all of that, the various different information, and the APIs into other components as well. And then you've got all the viewers, the analysis, the business intelligence tools. Everyone wants to use Power BI to look at what data's in there. You might use Unity or Unreal. Probably your front-end viewer might be Cesium or Terrier. And you'll probably use a bunch of other tools. Esri is probably one of the other ones that will be used in the vast majority of circumstances. But it's really an indication of how complex these scale digital twins are becoming, and they will continue to become. So how are WSP approaching current market challenges? We're really looking at digital as a core. Most businesses are doing that nowadays, hopefully, by now. We've got a pretty diversified approach. Different business units are doing different things, different structures, different skill sets. But then we're trying to make some commonality there with a central digital hit squad that sort of sits across the business units, across the verticals. So we're trying to have our cake and eat it as well, if you like, there. So far it's working relatively well. Integration of digital development capability. Now, this is something I think is probably reasonably unique to WSP. We've got a hardcore developer background group, which is the digital group that I now sit under. So full stack developers, DevOps, you name it. And they do work for big government agencies, so they supply and support long-term, large-scale software development. Now, this is something that we're starting to integrate with our delivery space. So we can start to look at these things like state-based digital twins and open up new markets that a lot of the engineering world don't have that sort of capability at scale. We believe that systems integration side is absolutely critical. Again, Luke mentioned earlier, he showed you a little image of lots of connected ecosystems, if you like, or data repositories, and that's absolutely where we need to go. They don't talk to each other natively. They might provide an API if you're lucky, but we need to develop the systems to actually make them talk to each other effectively in an automated way, not in a, I'm going to drag and drop something manually every few days. Obviously, we're focusing on people and culture and training and development. Again, I've harped on that last one enough, but unless we've got enough trained, skilled staff, there's no way we'll have the capacity to meet the market's demands. So, a bit of vertical and horizontal integration that we spoke about before. This is the outcomes we're looking for. Automation is obviously key here. Everything that we're doing, we're trying in some way to automate. Is it repeatable? Can it be coded? Let's see how we can do that. It's not always possible, and sometimes there's some dead ends. But unless we do that, we won't stay competitive. Systems integration, we spoke about the skilled workforce we spoke about, and the future focus. That's more around the future challenges of our market. So transport will be a big one. We'll end up with automated cars potentially, or transport as a service, carbon impact, etc. So they're the key areas that we're sort of pushing towards. And just lastly, before I finish up, I'll just touch on my digital business group and how it sort of brings all of those together. And largely this came out of looking at how can we focus on areas of the market like digital twins. We've now got that software and systems engineering. The visualization team sits with us as well. Digital engineering, data analytics and automation, platform engineering, so all of our cloud services and DevOps, and our GIS team, who do all the geospatial services as well. So we all sit under one manager now, and we're starting to kick some goals because we're starting to bring those disparate skill sets together, which we didn't have before. They might have sat in verticals before, and it was actually hard to integrate. And we think this is adding value and is probably the way forward for most of us. That's it for me. I think I'm pretty much on time. May have even gone over. Thank you.
Hopefully we've got the mic turned on. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Simon. That was fantastic and great to see. Probably just a comment on one of the things I picked up around some of your points around AI and machine learning. Which is probably going to be, there'll be more conversations about that, no doubt, in future forums, and some of the stuff some of us have looked into, and probably just some points around, that old saying, garbage in, garbage out, and I guess if an algorithm can get to a point where it's smart enough to sort through inconsistencies, we're probably all out of a job. But maybe just some points around that. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts because, there's been a lot of talk over the years around, job losses, and then we hear some of your points around the shortage of skills. So there's a bit of conflicting information, but getting people in the industry to understand, what is the truth around, AI, machine learning, all those sorts of things, and then where does that consistency kind of feed into it?
Yeah, how long have we got? So firstly, what you're really talking about there is big data and manage big data. And once you've got that, then you can overlay the machine learning. But you're absolutely right. It comes back to the standards. It comes back to naming the valve a valve, because otherwise it's not machine readable. So there's no way you can really look at those big data sets and get any insight. So we've looked at that, pulling data out of large sets of models, and every time we've looked at it, we've spent so much time resorting data that we could have done it manually in the first place. So it comes back to, we must have those standards before this can really kick off. It's not going to happen. To the second point, which I think was sort of around, okay, where does the market go? We've got skill shortages now. Machine learning, AI come in. What does that mean for us? I think it means we change roles. The skill shortage we have at the moment is sort of part of that, I would say. It's skilled digital practitioners that may have not existed 10 years ago, and we're still building capacity. And we've already sort of gone past the point where we just don't have those skilled, technical, digitally enabled engineers, technicians in place to really drive the efficiency. So that's part of that shift in skill set as the technology comes. Once the machine learning side comes in, I don't know, I wish I had an answer for that, but I think I saw some stats probably 5 years ago that said within 5 years 20% of the job force would be redundant, and that hasn't happened yet. So I think it will happen, but we'll have to change how we work. We have to become that trusted advisor for our clients. So we're doing more pure consulting rather than just design, and spending more time on analysing and getting the best outcomes for our clients, rather than just clicking around on a computer moving elements, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we were having this similar chat last night actually. So just around what it means for the job market going forward. So really great stuff. There was one online. I'll just come around and have a quick read. So with respect to skill shortages, so I guess a nice segue. Have WSP investigated using third-party engineering parties, i.e. in-house engineering departments within manufacturing companies, using these firms to help with design, documentation, production, whilst also incorporating engineered solutions?
Simple answer is no.
Yeah, I thought it might be.
At least not within my knowledge or my sphere of influence. Sure. I think it's one of those things that it's always hard to use an external provider if they don't understand our process and our approach. Every company does do things slightly differently, and that's fine, and that's the way it should be. But even when you get a skilled practitioner in, it might take them 3 months or 6 months to actually start to work within the system that you've created, to really add that value. So I don't see a lot of value in trying to bring in external resources on a temporary basis. We'd rather develop people our way and then have them drive the outcomes internally.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think and that's something where BIM EPOS is providing that opportunity there through work groups. Picking a particular product. Call it a pump, and getting industry experts together from various companies, consultants, engineers, contractors, manufacturers. So I think that's something that we can do. We have been doing. As I said yesterday, we want to definitely do more of that, and that provides that opportunity for the industry to get together and to still be able to share that knowledge that I think that kind of question's pointing to. But also at the same time help define that consistency around what the industry needs, to set all this up going forward. I think I might hand back to Charlie, and there's been a slight change to the schedule. Oh, sorry, we've got a question.
Hello. Just in terms of the whole workforce and training in terms of digitalisation and different technology, do you see it as being more of a, like, the specialists are obviously going to be there for a reason, but do you think there's benefits to be had from a whole of a business being understanding these different tools, and like what level does it need to get to for a layman to be able to understand these different tools and strategies?
Yeah, good question. I've spoken for a few years about homogenising. My wife likes unhomogenised milk, if you've ever had that, which means the cream floats on top. Shake it up, mix it up. That's the way I see the most efficient workforce. You do need to embed that digital culture in the wider business, and that's all the way from the top to the bottom for every different type of resource and role. But that's hard because that's that change management piece and shifting culture and shifting expectations. We're certainly heading in that direction, but it's been 10, 15 years, probably me pushing from within WSP, and we're not there yet. So it's a challenge, and you'll always have 20%, perhaps at least, of the workforce who just won't change. They're stuck in their ways. You'll never. That's probably a generational thing. As the next generation come through, they'll start digitally enabled, and they'll work through the business, and I think we'll see more change that way now. But certainly change and exposure within your business is very important. Yeah.
Cool. Hey guys, round of applause.
Thank you.